think it warrants, just kind of like regardless of kind of some of what you're talking about, but do you think that it warrants, just kind of extra conversation and prep for that day in particular?
I'm pretty comfortable with how we're handling that right now.
At this point of your camp, would anything be different if you had a decision right now? Would you be practicing them too differently?
I think the details would be important. Of whatever the decision is, the details of potential length of absence would matter the most to us in terms of how we're putting our plan together.
Kevin, we heard from some of the defensive guys the last couple of days talking about this alpha dogs thing that it sounds like they're starting. What do you know about that? They're being kind of secretive about it so far.
Yeah, so I'm going to be secretive as well because I don't want to get fined by those guys. But I think what you're trying to do, actually, training camp's long and it is competitive, but you're always looking for ways to motivate the guys on a day-to-day basis. I think each position group does it in their own way, and certainly Joe with the unit is taking it to a unique place.
You mentioned 7-on-7s today, and the ramp-up is obviously different than it used to be. So, just like for you, how different is it? How different does it feel not being able to see guys go, whatever, 1-on-1 or 7-on-7?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Scott, because I go back to 2020. We didn't have preseason games, so we truly did have a ramp-up. So we're trying to, within the framework of the rules, think about the right way to do this to get the football team ready to play and to try to minimize injury as best you can. As we all know, injuries can happen at a moment's notice, but what's the safe way to ramp up to get ready to play football? We got a Jacksonville game that's coming around the corner, so you do have to accelerate that to a certain extent to get the team ready to play, but trying to be real smart about how you begin camp because we know it's a long camp, it's a long season, got longer by a game last year, so taking all that into account as we start to prepare for the season.
Do you think it'll feel different tomorrow when the fans finally get it?
It always does. It does. The players love playing in front of the fans, and we're excited to have, it'll be my first training camp where it's a true and you have both with fans. I think it was a little bit more muted with just one side and that type of thing. So I'm looking forward to that, energy that it brings because it does ramp up the energy that the players then have.
Kevin, we've heard several players here early on, and I realize it's early in camp, but talking about the vibe of the team, just how different it is from last year. I guess from your perspective, what have you noticed, and I guess how would you define the difference in the vibe this year?
I think that's so hard for me to describe. Whoever said it, that's their opinion. I'm not real big on vibes.
I mean, you haven't noticed anything different?
I noticed the guys are working. The one thing I'd say, Daryl, is I think having a spring and having a 9-week program where the guys were in the building physically together and taking trips together, like that's the type of thing that you can do to grow as a team that we weren't able to previously. But in terms of vibes, I mean, what's today, July 28th, 9th? There you go. I don't know what day it is, Groundhog Day. But I don't think it's time yet to say that there's a different vibe.
Do you think you played your starters in preseason last year? Will you change anything about play time?
I think we're going to have those type of discussions the next couple weeks. We're always having those. I don't think there's any hard, fast rules in the NFL in terms of who plays who and how often you play. So it's really going to be dependent on this team and what we think this team needs to get ready. So we'll discuss that as it gets closer, but I would tell you that's something that you discuss every year, and every year stands on its own merit.
Hey Kevin, when you say you think it's too early right now to look for receiver help, how much of a factor is felt in what you're doing in the position?
Yeah, well, I think you guys have heard me talk about Dimitri. He's a very versatile football player. He is a football player first and foremost. There's an opportunity right now for him to get some receiver reps. We can bounce him back into that running back room at any point. And really, he's smart enough where he can do both within a given practice. So when you do have injuries at either position, he's a bonus player who can go on to either room, if you will.
Did you give Kareem any more of those receiver reps?
Yeah, I think Kareem does a nice job outside of the backfield in a lot of things that we've done over the course of the last couple of years. So that's definitely a role that he can play as well.
Kevin, Jakeem Grant is a viable offensive option. You tried to do that with Vance on a couple of years.
Yeah.
Hurt.
Right.
It's so small.
Yeah, different. I'd say a different player with Jakeem and JoJo. He's an electric player. He's fast. So certainly somebody that we would love to use as we get into the regular season.
Do you think there are opportunities to feature Dearness a little bit more when you're talking about a guy who had almost 300-plus rushing yards last season, how he's able to kind of get in there with Nick Chubb and those guys hurt relative to what he gave them when they were?
Yeah, I think, how I feel about Dearness, I think everybody knows he's a very, very he's a great teammate, number one, and then when he gets in there, he produces. So he's definitely somebody that we want to touch the rock because good things happen when he does. But at the end of the day, we have a bunch of good options in that room on the offense and just in general. But Dearness, as you can imagine, he will do whatever we ask him to do.
Good.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Sorry.
So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, head coach of your Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski, will be live with me fieldside at day 3 of Browns training camp 2022 here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus, and you're going to hear that interview only on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back to Cleveland Browns Daily Live fieldside here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea for day 3 of Browns training camp, and we are thrilled to be joined live on set right now by the head coach of your Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski. And, Coach, first of all, great to talk to you. Welcome back. How was your summer?
Great to be here. Summer was great. Got out of town for a little bit, took the family to the beach. So I spent some time in that Atlantic Ocean, which was fun. So I am refreshed.
A little Jersey Shore action?
Jersey Shore.
Love it.
Fun.
I love that. So when you're sitting here and you get to kind of see all this, the joy that I feel like is on so many people's faces, and especially on your staff, what does it mean to get to come back and actually get to start this process for you guys?
Yeah, this is what we do. This is what we love to do. And I get that unique opportunity to go watch our coaches coach. Something I love doing. I can see right now down at the other end, there's Coach Callahan. You know, what his guys are working under his watchful eye. And
they're always the first ones out here, by the way. I don't think that's a coincidence.
That's no coincidence, exactly. So he's doing a great job just watching our coaches coach, and that's where the first day of school, when these guys finally get back here, there's that energy level, the excitement, and then we get to teach, and that's ultimately what we are. We are teachers. So watching our guys coach, watch our guys teach is fun for me.
on the loves ball scale, or somebody who just is so thrilled to be around football, and I see him on the far side jogging around there, is Jason Tarver unmatched in his zest for this game?
Yeah, Tarv has some energy, and that's natural energy, and I appreciate it. And that energy, it permeates in his group and his linebacker crew. They, you hear them, they run to the ball, they're loud, and that definitely comes from Coach Tarv.
All right, last year you created, and it may even have been 2 years ago, that you created an absolute frenzy. You'd bust out the equipment hoodie. It's got the running elf on it. And that was really the only place that we'd saw it, would be on that hoodie. And now as I sit out here, I look it on the goalpost right there on the pads on the stanchion, on the official training camp sign, on a lot of the wrapping here. Is this your vision?
I got some other things I'm worried about other than the our marketing department. I'm going to give credit to Brad Mellon. How about that?
There it is.
That's
smart. We give him credit for everything.
Our equipment staff, he's the best. He takes care of us. So I'm going to give Brad credit for that one.
We've named an award after him that we give out every week during the season, which is the Brad Mellon Pursuit of Perfection Award. Because that's what he does. We just, we aspire to be there. All right. I know you do have more important things on your mind. Let's talk about, give the fans a little peek behind the curtain if you wouldn't mind. What's your daily schedule like during training camp as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah. So starts with that cup of coffee. Starts with putting the film on.
Checking the weather. I heard that the other day.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
First things first. But, yeah, we really start at 8 is our first meetings with the rookies. So I like to get in early and get the tape watched early. And we're just getting organized. We're in the infancy of this season, so we're in install number 1 currently. So we're really taking our time, and just so there's about 7 installs. So over the course of the next maybe 14 days, you'll get all those installs in. But we'll start with meetings, and then we'll be out there on the practice field for a walkthrough around 10:45, break for lunch, more meetings, or as Brett Favre called them when I was with Brett, beatings. And then we're back out here about 1:45, and then beautiful day that was ordered here. Clouds, and this is like perfect weather. So the guys are loving that. And then once we're done here, we're back in there. Then you watch the tape, you eat, you meet again, and then you're done. So the rhythm to how we operate typically is we meet on whatever the install is, we walk it through, and then we practice. And then the evening time is for the corrections that always occur.
And then you want to apply those and carry those forward the next day. So that's something that you're looking at in this phase. You're expecting there to be some mistakes. I know how happy you were with the way that people came back, not only in condition, but in their playbook, which would minimize those. But then what you want to see is it's okay to make a mistake. I don't want to see it twice.
Yeah, and that's where, I really go back to that off-season program. We covered so much ground, meaning we covered so much football, and we made those mistakes, and then we fixed them. And now when you're in that meeting this morning and you're showing the tape, you're like, hey, remember you made this mistake back in May. You're not going to make it here in July and August. So there's the benefit of a off-season program where you can cover ground, you can get all your installs in so that when you get here, you can accelerate the pace of your installs, and you can then start to pivot. You can add some things that maybe you wanted to tweak from the spring.
All right, so you said the rhythm is they're going to have this practice today, then you're all going to go watch the tape, maybe separate together, talk about it, get the guys back in the meeting rooms, go through that so that they're ready for the next day. When you have today, the first competitive periods of this training camp, you're going to have some 7-on-7s. You talked about that in your presser. What are you looking for in a 7-on-7? Because don't have to worry about the line now.
Yeah.
So are you looking at the way the routes are run? If the ball is going where the coverage dictated, what are you looking for when you watch that back offensively and then flip it to the other side defensively?
Yeah, so 7-on-7, like you mentioned, the offensive line's not in there, the defensive line's not in there. So it's not real football. The quarterback's not feeling the rush. It's weighted towards the offense. When you go out of let's say you have 20 plays in a 7-on-7, you better complete 16, 17 of those because there's no rush. Now, with the quarterback, you don't let him sit back there all day. You make sure that if it's 5 steps and a hitch, the ball better be out. He has to get to his check down, those type of things. But with 7-on-7, you're looking for communication on the back end on defense. You're looking for proper alignment and spacing from the offense. And then when the ball's in the air, we're trying to take care of each other, so you're not going to see any bang, big plays and guys knocking out the ball. So 7-on-7 is it's a precision piece for the offense. Then for the defense, it's more of a route recognition, pattern recognition, communication drill.
How much of it in your evaluation of, given that you said, look, we should be hitting at 80, 85% completion, how much of it is in the result of the play as much as the process and the decision by the quarterback when you're evaluating that position in a 7-on-7?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been around some real good quarterbacks in that 7-on-7 drill where they're just reacting. They're not thinking, and they see the coverage. They can see the people moving in front of them and decisions. You can watch almost their process occurring in real time. And it happens fast, and then so you're watching the process, and then you're really grading the accuracy of the throw.
Sure.
And that's where you try to maybe push yourself. I'm going to try and fit it in this tight window just to test. Can I fit in that tight window? Can I be so precise I'm going to throw this to his outside shoulder so that the defender can't get his hand on it?
With Deshaun, what have you seen in that regard? I know we're just getting started, but he got a little bit of time in minicamp and in the OTAs, and he's a guy who last time that he played in the league obviously led the league in completion percentage. He is incredibly accurate. And just watching him yesterday, and I know it was on air, and I kept saying that on the radio, it just looks pretty. The ball is it's a pretty ball in the air, and it looks very effortless.
Yeah, Deshaun's a talented thrower. Like you mentioned, it is an effortless motion. The ball comes out with good pace, good velocity, and it's a catchable ball. It throws a tight ball. You know, he's done a really, really nice job since he got here in April in throwing himself into the offense, getting himself in the book, understanding the techniques, understanding all the reads. So he's a very, very diligent worker. And I think that shows up in practice. I think you see him making proper decisions and then delivering accurate footballs.
When you have a veteran like Jacoby Brissett that you guys obviously wanted to get, that was the target. You've brought him in here to be the backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. What have you seen from him in terms of his process, a guy who's been in many different offenses, obviously, with a few different teams here in the league?
Yeah, real impressed by Jacoby. You do your work on a guy when you identify someone that you may go out and get. You watch the tape, you make some phone calls. So you feel like you have a pretty good picture of the person. And I think all of that was accurate, and I'm even more impressed having been around him. I just think he's a rock-solid person. I love how he prepares. I love how he thinks about football. He was raised right in this league. He's been in some really good offenses with really smart coaches and teammates. Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, to name a couple. So the guy's seen a lot of football, even though he's a young man, and I just appreciate what he brings to that meeting room.
Yeah, 2020 Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Colts, and not only that, a great jumper. Did you know that was a part of the package?
I didn't. I found that out over at the Cavs facility. I appreciate it, Coach Bickerstaff, for letting us come over there. But an impressive Jay. That guy
Smooth.
He can really shoot it.
He can. All right, Coach, we're going to get you out of here on this one. I know you have important things to do out there on the field, and we appreciate your time. It being PJB's birthday today, did you offer to not do media so he could just relax today and enjoy his birthday?
No, he's making me do all this on his birthday. You know what
so
he does
mad at me
is
right now.
he makes everything about him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
totally.
always all about PJB, and it gets frustrating. But that's the lot in life.
You're a mensch for putting up with that. Congrats, Coach. Coach, thank you
right.
very much.
Thanks.
PJB, happy birthday to you. And we'll be back with more. We're going to hear from the Browns defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, when Cleveland Browns Daily returns here live, fieldside, on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You're down.
So for us, it just really came down to situational football. There was a lot of areas that we made improvement from 20 to 21, but we had to get better on third down, red zone area, things of that nature.
Joe, what surprised you about Jeremiah last year? Anything?
No, he's a good player. He's very, very athletic, very explosive. When he puts his foot in the ground, he can go from point A to B right now. So his ability to match up in coverage, his ability to make plays in space is unique.
But was there anything that he did that you weren't sure he was ready for?
No, as a young guy, as a rookie coming in the league, you have to learn how the game's being played. In college, it's a little bit different in terms of what they see. For him, his first year was really how was he going to play in the box. I went back and watched every single play when he was at Notre Dame, and he was really playing on the edge like a nickel. He was playing out in the slot like a nickel, or he was blitzing off the edge. So all the stuff in terms of playing in the box was new for him, and I thought he handled it pretty good.
He almost looks like a running back sometimes.
Absolutely. We talk about our linebackers. We want them to look like the animals they hunt. So we want our linebackers to resemble running backs, because those are the guys they have to defend.
He had talked about turning it down at times, like he's overly aggressive, sometimes overrunning.
Yeah.
You see that?
Well, he's kind of a see ball, get ball type of guy, but you have to go through your key progression. We want the fast trigger, in terms of executing your run gaps and your responsibilities, but you got to be patient and make sure your key takes you there. So he just got ahead of himself a little bit playing fast, but that just comes with experience.
You said a lot about. You said that you would have more for him this year than as a rookie. So,
Yeah.
what are some of those additional things you have on his plate?
Yeah, well, you always want to activate your playmakers, but at the same time, you have to make sure you're doing the right thing for the entire defense. So we'll always have ways to blitz them, ways to put them in certain positions in coverage. We'll do a little bit more of that this year. That's just natural for any rookie going into a second year, but we definitely want to take advantage of his talents.
Joe, John brought up yesterday this alpha dog thing you guys are doing. Can you tell us
It's a
what
secret.
that is? Or is it?
No, it's I won't get into all the details, but basically we try to make our practices like games. So we try to chart all the information, and then we keep track of the guys leading each category, teams leading each category, and then there may be a reward at the end.
Are there four teams, you said?
4 teams.
Did you divide them up, or did you pick captains, let them pick?
We have a little cabinet that divides it up. We just try to balance out the teams. But we're definitely going to get into alpha dog mode here in a couple of days.
So a year ago, the offense turned
Yeah.
coaches system,
Yeah.
11 starters, and it didn't follow. It didn't turn into anything good. This year, you expect to pick up where you left off, but why would it be different?
No, I think when you can bring back the same staff and when you can bring back a majority of players, you feel like you can do more defensively because the guys understand the system. And I put more on the guys in the offseason, put more on them right now in training camp, just in terms of the amount of defenses that we're installing. And you just feel like with those guys understanding that now we can get to another level of what we can do defensively. So just bringing guys back, it's just continuity and everybody understanding the scheme and the techniques that we're asking them to play.
I think that didn't happen on offense.
I couldn't answer. Yeah, I pay no attention to that, to be honest with you.
I got another question for you.
Yeah.
Everybody, coaches talk a lot about your guy in year 2 playing even faster.
Yeah.
Than he did in year 1.
Yeah.
JOK was so fast. Does he still have another level that he can get to that way?
Well, I think his level's pretty good where he's at. I think him is just more understanding his responsibilities and, again, letting his keys take him to where he's supposed to go. And I think he'll be more consistent that way this year, but you're still going to see the speed and the quickness.
How's Jordan done better since since last year?
Jordan?
Yeah.
I think he's changed his body. Man. He came in, when he came in for training camp, we reported, I saw him. I was like, man, you're looking good. How much you weigh? I think he was in the 320 somewhere, but he looks like he weighs 280. And that's the way you want the big guys to look, big athletes. And I think for him, it's just confidence. He's been in the system going into his third year. Coach Kiffin's done a great job teaching him, but now he knows the expectations, what's going to be asked of him, and we definitely need him to step up for us this year.
Joe, I got another JOK question for you.
Yeah.
You kept adding and adding to his plate last year, early on. You handled it.
Yeah.
How rare is that for a first-year guy?
No, some guys, the guys who are on the field are normally the guys that can handle it, when you get rookies. And you have to be careful because I mean, you guys see the ability he has. So you're sitting there in the grease board drawing all types of things up. But at the same time, they have to be able to handle it. And we slowly added things to his plate along with the rest of the defense, and I felt like he did a good job.
Yesterday, John Johnson said the free safety look, he still feels like it's work. You guys bring running back.
Yeah.
Two parts. Looking back last year, did it get to where you wanted it to, and then do you have the same expectations?
Yes, he's politicking. Yeah, no, the three safety package is good for us, and there's some other things we're going to do this year. But I always feel like defensively, I want to dictate the matchups, not what the offense is doing. So when you can go three safeties, you can put more corners on it. We have all types of packages, but we'll slowly introduce it so that way we feel like we have more control of what we're doing defensively.
You also mentioned turnovers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Alpha Dog, is that really an emphasis this training?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we live and breathe. That's in our DNA, is that we want to take away the football. We haven't done as good a job the previous 2 years. I think we were right in 19, 20 in the NFL. We greatly have to improve that because that's one of the major categories, if not the most important category when it comes to winning games.
Do you consider two linebackers the base defense?
We're based when we go to base personnel against offenses. Our base defense is three linebackers, and then when we go to nickel, then we'll have two linebackers. We bring another DB in, and then if we go dime, then we'll have one linebacker on the field. But I said you have all the, you have Ronnie, you have Jacob, Sione, JOK, so you can create a lot of different things out there.
When you talk about adding things to the defense, is there a point where you don't want things to get too complicated? And
Yes.
how do you lower that point?
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been trying to say is there's a lot of things we can do defensively, but you have to be able to practice it, and you have to be able to execute it, on game day. So when you get to the point where you feel like guys aren't executing, making too many mistakes, then that's when you have to really look at the menu and maybe have to pull back a little bit.
Who will work at nickel besides
We're training everybody. Yeah, so we have 7 guys we're training right now, and that's what we do with all the guys. We always try to train everybody that has that type of skill set to play the nickel position. So throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, there's going to be multiple guys playing the nickel position and just see how it sorts out. No, but maybe they weren't asked to play nickel in college. So we train them all and see who can do it.
George, some of the safeties do the nickel?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the more you can do, the better.
Another one of those guys who's entering his second year is Grant.
Yes.
JD3 was saying yesterday he thinks Grant can be one of the better ones in the game. Just what did you see from him last year, and what are your expectations for him?
I think for Grant, he was coming off that injury. So I think early on in the season, he was kind of feeling his way, like, am I really back? And you could see, I remember just watching the whole season and just watching him, just tracking him the whole way through the season. You can see him get better, and you can see the confidence. I think with him, he really sees the field well. You don't ever see him really wasting steps, and I think the instincts really play a big part of it for him. And then you have all the size and length and ability he has, So he got better last year, and we look for him to have a good year for us this year as well.
You guys use Greg as your nickel at time class and Troy.
Yes,
Troy was
yes.
out. It seems like that's something you're going to do this year. It seems like something he wants to do. Is that part of it, that mentality, that kind of wants to inside?
The more you can do, the better. It gives us flexibility on defense, and he likes it in there. The nickel position is a good position because you can get away with a lot of things. You're close to the ball, we blitz you, but he's picked it up and he's doing really well so far.
What are your concerns with the D tackle position? A lot of people think you need more experience.
Yeah,
Last question.
Young players, along with some free agents. And at certain times, within the team, you're going to have those moments where you're developing young guys at a position. So for us this year, we have some youth at the defensive tackle position, but they're talented. So along the way, they're probably going to make some mistakes, as they're growing into the position and learning it. But I think that's just the process we're going to have to go through this year.
You're up.
All right, that's Browns defensive coordinator Joe Woods, and I can tell you this defense is very excited about what it can be, the continuity that he mentioned. Your starting defensive ends are back. Yes, there's some new guys in the middle, but your top 4 linebackers from a year ago are all back. 4 of your top 5 corners from a year ago are back. Your top 3 safeties are all back. So that continuity and the coaching staff returns intact on the defensive side of the football. When we come back, we're going to go to the offensive side. Nick Harris, the Browns starting center, working on his – this is his third training camp as the starter because, remember, JC wouldn't take these reps. This is the first one, though, where he's going to get to carry that into the regular season and be the starter for the Browns. I know you guys enjoyed him last time he was on with us on CBD. You're going to enjoy this as well. It's our exclusive one-on-one live from training camp with Nick Harris next on Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
To be back and playing some football.
When you go away, where did you get away to?
I went to Greece for about a week and a half, and it was a great time. It was a good reset before we start going.
What was your favorite part about Greece?
The food, because the food is so fresh out there. You can just eat nonstop. And that was perfect for me because I didn't want to lose any weight.
So that's one of the things people probably don't understand. Everybody else in the world is out there trying to lose weight, and you're like, no, I need to maintain my weight while you're out there. So a lot of seafood, is that where you're eating? A lot of fresh seafood?
A lot of fresh seafood, fresh veggies, just constantly. Hummus, a lot of hummus. Big hummus out there. But, yeah, it was all fresh food and tried to make sure I stayed on top of it while I was there.
What was your favorite city that you visited?
Oh, man. think Milos, the island, was the best. Was the best island we visited because it was just naturally so beautiful. Like it was just a good spot to be.
And now you're back in the natural beauties of Cleveland. We're looking out at the field right now as we do this interview. And so one of the things that I think is interesting, and you're going to educate me and I think a lot of our listeners here. So I get next Tuesday, the pads come on, you as an offensive lineman, you guys get to kind of play football again. Right. In the OTAs and the minicamp, when there aren't pads and all of that, what's the most important thing that you can gain from that period?
I think it's one, the meetings of just learning the playbook and learning the schemes and learning, just our calls and everything. And then two, just running through the techniques and the details in Indy because, our coach is so proactive and, how detailed we play the game. And, just because we can't, thud up against the D-line doesn't mean we can't refine the techniques in Indy. So, I think those two are the most important.
How excited are you, though, to actually get to that up and actually see those techniques applied against an opponent who's trying to stop you?
It's, that's why we play, right? We play to hit somebody, so definitely it's exciting. But you got to go through those steps and refine your techniques and learn the playbooks before you can get to that, so you can play fast and play confident.
You mentioned that your coach is a stickler for detail and for the I would say the intensity of the reps, because as we look over here to our right, there's one pure portion of this entire field that had to be redone and resodded, and it is where the offensive linemen were doing their drills. So is that a point of pride? I'm sure Coach Callahan and Coach Peterson, that's a point of pride, but it's hard to miss that's where you guys were, and that's the place that got absolutely torn up.
Yeah, right. No, it definitely it helps with all the different toys and stuff they pull out for us to play with in practice. So it helps the sled slide a little bit better, and we got a whole bunch of stuff over there that we're constantly doing and constantly refining. And then like you said, that they're both detail oriented, like not just Callahan, but Coach Peters is a very detail oriented coach. So it's that one patch of grass is for all that stuff over there.
Where are you at in keeping your thumb placement where Coach Peters wants it?
It's never good enough. You always got to refine it. Always got to refine it.
So what people might not understand is you're going into your first year looking to start. You got that start obviously against Green Bay and performed very, very well on Christmas Day. But that you have done in training camp, basically been the starting center. This is 3 years in a row, because JC was always on a pitch count. How much did that experience help prepare you for what's going on now?
I credit my confidence of playing now to that, because you get used to playing between Wyatt and Joel. And even with Jack and Jed, you get used to playing with those guys in practice. And our practice reps, we go pretty hard in practice. So it's the closest thing to the game, and getting those reps, it helps you play faster, play more confident. It helps you get the visual cues you need as a center to see things before you go on the game field. That played a huge part for sure.
Are you excited that when you guys do get the pads on Tuesday, that the guys across from you, some new flavors, right? You got Jordan Elliott, who you've gone against, and obviously Tommy was here last year, but for the most part, and Sheldon, there's some new faces as well to kind of try your techniques out and see things that maybe you haven't seen before other than watching them on tape or maybe even in the preseason.
Definitely. We got an assortment of talent over there. They all have different styles of play, so it'd definitely be a good test for us in camp, and being able to go against that talent, because when you're going through NFL season, you see a whole bunch of different types of players, but at the end of the day, it really lies on us and our technique and just staying true to how we play, and it all fall into place from there.
When you as a center are, let's say we're in a 3rd and long, an obvious passing situation, you're going against our defense, and all of a sudden here comes 3, maybe even 4 defensive ends, because they can kick a Miles inside, they can kick a Clowney inside, Alex Wright has size, they can kick him inside. How does that change things, and what's the biggest difference when you're blocking a guy that is a pass rusher from the edge and now he's inside?
Yeah, it starts in the meeting room. You learn those guys while coach is going over how they rush tackles. You see how they play, and then when they kick inside, obviously the space is confined. So everything happens a little bit faster. So your technique has to be, it has to move one step ahead, in speed wise, just because the quarters are so close. But like I said, it comes back just to trusting our technique, just being confident in what we do, then that's, usually, but they create great matchups for teams. So I'm excited to see them go against other teams during the season with that talent, but definitely helps us in camp.
Yeah, right. Certainly. Hopefully not your problem after we get to the regular season there. When you think about this offense in the center, they say the quarterback of the offensive line, how are things evolving? Without giving away the secrets, we'll save those for Carolina in week number 1. But just how do you see things evolving in this offense and the role of the offensive line in that evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I think these reps that we got in OTAs and just the reps that we're getting, obviously in the beginning of training camp, they're helping. They help a lot. Just the cohesion of the whole group. We have a lot of new faces, as everybody knows. Sure. Just getting those reps all together play a huge part. And then just for the offensive line, just us, we have a good group of guys in there that are they just want to work. I think from the whole group just. They constantly just want to, learn new techniques and be on the field and, practice. So if you have if a group of workers like that, a group of connected workers like that, man, it's the sky's the limit. So it's been promising.
All right, 3 kind of fun ones in the offensive line room. Who in the offensive line room would you never want to meet one-on-one in a street fight? And not necessarily you, because I know you're going to have supreme confidence in your abilities. But I'm talking just like in general. Like if you were saying, okay, let me rephrase it. You have to bring one guy in the offensive line with you into a 2-on-2 situation. Who are you saying you're my wingman?
Wyatt, for sure. Wyatt, yeah. No, he's crazy.
He carried an alligator around.
He's crazy. He's a wild card. So that's perfect for if he's on your side because you don't know what he's about to do.
You're exactly right. Who is the biggest eater? If you guys are going to have an eating contest, who would put down the most food?
Jedrick Wills, easily, man. That boy eats all day, every day. He's constantly eating.
All right, and then who's the funniest guy in the room?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. We got some funny guys in there, though. But I would say that the guy that makes me consistently laugh is David Moore, man. He's a funny dude. He's a really funny guy.
What's so funny about him for our fans who may not be familiar? What does he bring to the table?
He's just witty. He always has like something quick off the top of his head to say in just funny situations. And he's always just smiling and messing around everybody. So yeah, he's a really good dude to have in that room because he lightens it up when things get real intense and stuff.
All right, and then the last one, saying in this fun theme here, is Scott Peters still the most jack strong guy in the offensive line room, even though he's not even active?
Absolutely.
Dude, that guy's crazy.
It's not even a question. That honestly, if we were to pick coaches, I would pick him in the fight question. But obviously, we're picking players. But we picking coaches. I'm picking Coach Peters.
Just have him he'll be like your Bobby the Brain, he and the manager, but then he'll get involved and help put you guys over the top.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. I've noticed as I'm sitting here talking, something I haven't noticed for. A diamond in your tooth. I don't know that I've ever seen such a thing, Nick Harris. Give us the story behind the diamond in your right incisor. I didn't go to dental school, but I think I have that right.
It was just a little impulse decision I did back home. That's it. That's it.
What do the fellas think of it?
I don't know. I've gotten what is that in your what the what I'm saying, just a reaction when they see it, but it's just, the fellas always, they like to make fun every time they get to see something new.
Of course they do. They love that out there. All right. So you're getting ready here. We've got opening of training camp on Saturday. To the fans, I know you guys have been in it for a while. What's it like to get the fans out here? What do you kind of think of the new digs, all the room, all the stands that are going to be out here for when the fans get out here on Saturday?
Man, I'm excited for them to see the team, Like I said, man, we got a lot of talent on this team, and just seeing how things have been progressing over OTAs and stuff, it'll be exciting for the fans to be out here and just to experience it on the practice field, and all these new tents and bleachers, and I feel like I'm at a movie set right now, man. But it's gonna be good, man. I'm excited. I really am.
Anybody in the offensive line room wearing the T-shirt with Batonio and Teller on it, the NBA Jam style shirt? Have you seen that yet?
Yeah, I have seen. I haven't seen anybody wear it, but we might have to get Coach Callahan one so he can wear it.
I think that would be good. Nick, it is always a pleasure. So excited for you, man, and what's lying ahead for you this season. And listen, I used to tell people all the time when I was in there, there was not a second that you weren't in that gym getting after it this off season. And so proud of you and happy for you for this opportunity. And I know you're going to crush it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, for real. Right. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. The great Nick Harris will be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily right after this. Rumpke Waste and Recycling is a family-owned and operated company. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become a part of the family. Visit www.rumpke.com to learn more. Very happy to be joined now live on set fieldside here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus by Omar Ruiz, NFL Network reporter and host who's been in Cleveland all week covering the team. And don't forget, this Saturday on NFL Network's Back Together Saturday show, which will air from 9 a.m. through 10 p.m. live. Reporters all around the country covering every team. You'll be on that when that'll be the first day with the fans here as we really get things going. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Omar D. Ruiz. Omar, great to see you, man.
Great to see you, Nathan. It's great to be out in person. And I got to tell you, Cleveland the last few days has just dialed it up from a Chamber of Commerce standpoint. Here in Berea, you got the picture-perfect cotton candy clouds with the blue sky, football on the field, the perfect green grass. Let us go.
Let's go. We got to roll out a little bit of, California look maybe, a little of that for you, roll out the red carpet for you here. So what's it been like being here, being around this team? And we'll start with the elephant in the room. Obviously, there is uncertainty as to the availability of quarterback Deshaun Watson to start this football season. But it feels to me anyway like they're operating business as usual. Do you feel that way?
I do, and I've been in places, been in buildings where controversial things, pending outcomes have had a dark cloud over the entire organization, and it doesn't feel that way here. I think the way Stefanski has set everything up is that when they do find out how many games they might be without Deshaun Watson for, it'll be like an injury, and they're just operating that way. Kind of an underlying sense that I'm getting here. There's a quiet confidence. And, Nathan, I've been here over the years, different regime changes, different reasons for hope and optimism and everything else with new personnel and all that. And I think this would be a similar story again if there wasn't the looming suspension waiting to happen with Deshaun and Amari and the new-look offense. But what I'd say about that is that's forced a little tempered enthusiasm. Because if it wasn't for that, this would be a team that has the talent to talk about a Super Bowl run. And all the expectations, again, that the Browns have turned it around, the foundation has been laid, and here we go, Arizona, February 2023. But because we're waiting for the suspension, that hasn't happened, so perhaps they'll fly under the radar a little bit. We've talked about how good this defense can be, and of course Nick Chubb and everything else. This is a team that has been built that I think can withstand a lengthy suspension to a superstar quarterback and remain in the hunt. Time will tell, of course, but that's the sort of overlying theme that I've noticed being here a few days.
Yeah, which is a good one. Is on the field, the first 7-on-7 drill of Browns training camp started with a Deshaun Watson completion to Donovan Peoples-Jones. And on that one, looking for Nick Chubb over the middle of the field, and they were not able to connect there. You're right. This is a team that has a lot of talent. We mentioned the defense. We mentioned the running backs. But one of the things that it feels to me anyway seems to be inspiring this quiet confidence, and there are mixed opinions around the league about him, but the Browns, I know, are very happy to have Jacoby Brissett here, and it feels like they really do think he can run this offense for whatever period of time it would need to be.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, I think, can be a great game manager, and especially, I don't know, I think when he first filled in for Andrew Luck in 2017, when Luck was dealing with that shoulder injury, the team in Indianapolis wasn't as good anymore as the early part of Luck and what it's become more recently. And so, he probably developed his reputation based off of that, and it's hard to shake those first impressions as a starter. But this will be the most talented team that he'll have led in his NFL career, and certainly the way he's able to lead, the way he's able to galvanize a locker room, the way he's able to manage a game offensively, I think bodes very well for this team. I think it was a great pick to bring him in as the backup. And then at the start of camp, Kevin Stefanski clarifying where he stands in the depth chart, that he is the definitive backup and he'll start the games when and if Deshaun Watson gets suspended, and Jacoby Brissett to have those reins here early in camp and whenever that might happen, and they shift the amount of reps for him to lead, I think all sets him up as best as possible for the most success he can have.
You're right. Talk with Omar Ruiz from the NFL Network, who has been here and will be here through the weekend here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus watching this Browns team. Has anything surprised you in your conversations with whether it be with some of the coaches or really anybody in this organization as you sit here right now, only day 3 of camp, but anything that stood out to you?
That they're focused on just doing the work.
Yep.
That there is no hype here. That there's no hype to be bought in. I don't think that I get a sense from any of the players or coaches that I've spoken with, even Andrew Barry, when I mentioned just how talented this roster is, and he says you got to see it on the field. You got to win games to justify all that talk. So no resting on their laurels for as successful as the offseason might have billed, no matter how much talent they appear to be. And I think just looking at the team physically, this is one of those all-bust teams.
Yeah.
Everybody's filled out. Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, just, physical specimens. And this could be a special group with as much talent as they have. And in talking with Andrew Barry, he says it's not necessarily the most talented 53. It's the right 53. And I think that's another aspect of this team that they've all been talking about, what chemistry and cohesion, the camaraderie. Amari Cooper saying that trip to the Bahamas was way more bonding experience than he expected it to be. And them to form those bonds so early and then develop it here in camp, I think is something that I don't think I expected to hear, considering how much continuity they have from last year. But, as Stefanski says, winning cures all. And I think they hope to win a lot of games here this season.
Yeah, they certainly do. Talking with Omar Ruiz from the NFL Network. And Omar, we talked about one of the reasons for optimism is this defense and the continuity there. You think about, 4 of your top 5 corners from a year ago are back, and you draft MJ Emerson. You're talking about all to your top 3 safeties, your top 4 linebackers, and then we get to the 2 that matter the most, Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney back again for the Cleveland Browns. What's kind of your sense on this defense, your read on this defense, and just, what it can be for the Browns?
Yeah, I think it could be the best in the league. When you have the continuity now, I think Joe Woods coming in 2020 laid the foundation, put in his system. Then last year, the new personnel and counting on, a rookie like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to play a lot, and the expectation for him now in year 2 to make that next step, and really the entirety of the defense, having that continuity together they keep speaking about. And, talking with Joe Woods, who, was on the 49ers staff where that defense carried them to the Super Bowl.
Right.
John Johnson was on the 2020 Rams that was ranked number 1 in the league and got Brandon Staley a head coaching job. They know what an elite defense looks like here. I believe they are confident. They have the pieces in place, but it's what John Johnson spoke about in his press availability yesterday, the consistency to get that every single week. And they'll need it, especially, the games that Deshaun Watson may not play. But certainly if they can get that consistency, they can become that elite, top-ranked defense if everything goes well and the injuries are on their side.
And I think you made such a great point earlier that, if you were here 1 year ago today, coming off of that playoff run, there was so much hype around this team. There was so much excitement. This team going to the Super Bowl, a lot of talk of that.
Mm-hmm.
We know how last season went. There has been a complete overhaul at the quarterback position. The rest of the team, when you bring in Amari Cooper, that helps. That was the number 1 goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Overhaul the passing game. In comes Deshaun Watson. In comes Amari Cooper. And then defensively, it was get Clowney back. They accomplished that. But, when you talk about a team with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the back, and Dearness Johnson, for that matter, who's darn good, you have got the defense that's got Myles and Clowney, and then Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome and John Johnson and Delpit and Owusu-Koramoah and on and on and on. It is interesting that this team is a bit under the radar, and it's all because of that, obviously, the uncertainty at quarterback. You don't really know how to say what this team is, but you wouldn't think a team with those names that we just kind of laid out would ever be under the radar in the NFL. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a healthy thing for this organization because if you think about in the last 4 years, coming off of 18, very hyped going into 19, didn't go well. And then in 20, it was kind of under the radar. And playoffs, 21, very hyped, didn't go well. So hopefully this year that bodes well for that trend.
Well, going back to 18, Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall pick, a lot of hope, a lot of optimism. Certainly when he was thrust into the game against the Jets on Thursday Night Football, national TV, comes back, wins the game. 19, the Odell trade and what that might mean for this offense. So it seems like, and then in 2020, obviously the deep playoff run, every single year, the last handful of years, there's been high expectations, a lot of hope and a lot of optimism. And because of the way the Deshaun Watson possible suspension has played out over the summer, because of that tempered enthusiasm we talked about, ultimately I think will be a good thing for this team in flying under the radar and not having to worry about the hype and just focusing on the work, focusing on winning games, and whether that might be ugly, 16-6 type of games, to start the season, so be it. But if they could just hang in there, which I think the team is good enough to, by the time Watson comes back, look out in the second half of the season or whatever that might be. I have no indication on how long that might be. But
nobody does. Don't worry, we're not holding anybody to anything.
Whenever that might be, look out for that Browns offense as well.
Hopefully soon we'll get that information. You see why you're excited. Deshaun Watson, the 7-on-7 drill, just drilled a deep dig to Jakeem Grant through heavy traffic and got the ball right in there. He's one of the most accurate passers in the National Football League. Let's talk for a second about this division because, obviously the AFC West, it's easy to look at that and say, yeah, that's the best division in football right now. You've got a loaded Chiefs team, a loaded Chargers team, a loaded Raiders team, and now Russell Wilson's in Denver, so a loaded Broncos team. But this AFC North, the Bengals just represented the AFC. The Steelers have never had a losing record under Tomlin, although it's probably easy to say that maybe they're right now in that fourth slot. The Ravens are always good. They have the MVP at quarterback. They're healthy. This is a stout division as well. What do you make of just the AFC North picture in general?
I was just thinking about that yesterday. As much as we talk about the AFC West, I remember thinking last year about the NFC West, and they had this sort of similar blockbuster type of division that we're talking about the AFC West, and it didn't necessarily play out that way. For whatever reason, of course, Russell Wilson gets hurt, so you just don't know how things are going to play out in the AFC West. But I think the way the AFC North teams are built, the Steelers' defense is another one that could be so good that it might not matter if a rookie quarterback is playing or a reinvented Mitchell Trubisky. They might still be good enough. You mentioned Mike Tomlin, the way he leads and the way they win every single year. They might be good enough as a fourth team to be so competitive that they're threatening for a wild card spot. Then you have the defending AFC champions in the division. We would only imagine them to be better given all that experience. And we've talked about the Browns and, of course, the Ravens. I think this is a comeback season for the Ravens, especially if Lamar is in a contract year. We see how guys perform in contract years if they don't get that done before the season begins, and how good that defense could be kind of rebounding from last year. So I think when it's all said and done, you don't know how things are going to play out in the AFC West, but at the end of the day, this might be the most competitive talked about division, which it normally is.
You're right about that.
Year in and year out in the NFL.
It's just nice that the Browns, I think, have the roster and the talent and the coaching to be in the conversation for the good part of the AFC North this year as we talk with Omar Ruiz. And Omar, this is not Browns related. It is NFL related. Have you ever seen anything like the saga of the last few days with the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray?
No, not even close.
Wild,
that
right?
is just wild, wild, wild. And I think that the most wild thing to me is that, Eric Burkhart is the agent for Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. So, and then, you have the owner who has let Steve Keim just direct, but he does insert himself.
Sure.
So there is just a triangle, if you will, at the head of that organization that is very invested, and I think they do a good job. The last 10 years since Michael Bidwell has been running the team, they've won double-digit. They've had double-digit win seasons more than the history of the franchise before he sort of took over. So they've been very competitive. We had it with the Bruce Arians era, and they've been competitive, obviously, the last couple of years with Kyler and Cliff. Still haven't gotten over the hump, but the way it's all played out is just remarkable, fascinating, and will be one of those 30 for 30 or NFL Network of football life that we'll be looking back, 15 years from now and saying, what in the heck was that?
Totally. And so here are the questions that I have, and these are more theoretical. These aren't questions necessarily for you, but we can maybe we'll think about them together. Is did Eric Burkhart ever tell Kyler Murray that clause was in that contract? Okay, that's theoretical question number one, because it feels like he did not know about it and that he was insulted by it, and that it would have been easy to say no, take this clause out, or I'll go play somewhere else. There are plenty of people who will pay me because I'm good not to have that. Number two, theoretical, how did this become public? Because if you think about the parties involved in this contract, it does not behoove the Cardinals for this to become public at all, because it would say, well, yeah, you're giving this guy 160 guaranteed, but yet you felt like he wasn't studying up to the level of a franchise quarterback. It certainly doesn't benefit Kyler Murray's camp for this to become public, because it looks like he has not been doing the job of a franchise quarterback, and they are going to now legislate that he must put in that studying time when we all know it's a lifestyle to play the most demanding position in all of professional sports. So the only person I could think in my mind as a theoretical person is an agent that wants to someday represent Kyler Murray would somehow make this public, because otherwise it makes no sense that this was even brought to light, and now it's already been backtracked and eliminated in a couple of days.
And that theory makes sense, because all the parties involved would not want that to be out. But those contracts do become public once they're approved and stamped by the CBA and NFLPA and everything. All agents have access to it. So that theory seems good. But I go back to a press conference that I was there for, and I forget if maybe they were going to play the Seahawks, and Russell Wilson perhaps made some complimentary comments about Kyler Murray. And I asked Cliff Kingsbury about the praise that Russell Wilson was giving on Kyler, and Cliff responded in this way about, he appreciates that somebody like Russell would say that because Russell is somebody who has fully invested his time year-round, 365 days a year, into being the franchise quarterback in both how he trains his body, how he studies film, and he just went in great depths about how Russell Wilson is the face of the franchise. And to me, that sent a message that he wants Kyler to be like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, perhaps, the ownership kind of took hold of that. And if to me, if Cliff is saying that publicly, then I'm sure they've had conversations similar in private, and perhaps ownership felt that maybe that message is not getting through, and so I want that. If I'm going to pony $160 million up, I want this in the clause. And then going back to your point, the original question, how the heck does that go public? I think that's the million-dollar question. But late last night, they had it removed.
With a statement?
Yeah, with the statement.
This isn't how it was intended. It's just, oh, man.
But going to your point, this is something we've never seen before, and I don't know if I've ever seen language of a contract taken out because of public backlash.
And even almost it feels like player backlash. And you think about the Arizona Cardinals, who have been, desperate for a franchise quarterback. They've had Kurt Warner, but he wasn't their homegrown, guy. And you go back to maybe even Jake Plummer briefly when they had those great moments with he and David Boston. But this could have been a great, seminal moment in the franchise, and it will always be somewhat marred by the way this went down. And to your point, there should be a 30 for 30 down the line about how did this happen, because I think that it is fascinating.
But this is one of those things where, like Kevin Stefanski said earlier in talking about team building and camaraderie and everything, winning cures everything.
Of course it does.
So if they don't fold down the stretch like they've had the last few years, then, we'll all be
Kumbaya.
laughing about that. And
That's
I guarantee you that Kyler in his press conferences later in the year will be talking about, I studied 6 hours for that game or whatever. He'll be having fun with it. We'll all joke about it. But if it doesn't, or if history repeats itself and they don't get to the playoffs or have the success that they're expected to this season, then that will linger over. And again, to your point, will kind of hang over the organization the way it has the last few days.
Yeah, very interesting, and it was nice for a little bit to have a little controversy elsewhere in the National Football League as we get ready here for this Browns season. Again, this Saturday, NFL Network's Back Together Saturday show, which will air from 9 a.m. through 10 p.m. live. Reporters covering just about every single team around this country, including Omar Ruiz, our guest here, who will be bringing you the action from Berea here, the Cross Country Mortgage Campus, and the Browns. Omar, thanks so much for the time, man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Nathan. Always good to see you, and I'm glad we're back together here. And
yes,
we'll be back together Saturday tomorrow.
It's a real treat indeed. We'll be back so much more to come as we wrap this edition up of Cleveland Browns Daily on a Friday, live from the practice fields at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. Wow. We are wrapping it up here. We got the first 7-on-7 of training camp earlier. Definitely some Deshaun Watson to Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's been a theme in the early going. Also a nice ball to Jakeem Grant. That was a dime on the backside dig there. You love to see that. The defense had some moments getting their hands on some balls as well. Had Jacoby Brissett orchestrated the offense nicely also, so that was good to see. Big thanks to Gibbe. What a week here. Thanks to Kevin Stefanski for joining us on set, Omar Ruiz, Nick Harris as well. A loaded show. And remember, tomorrow, the debut of Browns Live Training Camp. That'll happen tomorrow at 2:30 for you when we get things going right here from the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea with our fans. As the great Jim Donovan once said, the only thing missing is all of you. That will not be true tomorrow. You will be here for Browns Training Camp. Stay tuned to the next level. It is next on 850 ESPN Cleveland.